So the LEDs for my light bar showed up a day ahead of schedule. Did not expect that. So I wanted to show these on camera, what I ended up choosing, just because there are a ton of these flexible light strips on Amazon. And I just dug around until I found a pretty good deal. And these seem to get, the best reviews. They're not just the generic, they actually come in a package. So let me get this open. I'll show you what these look like, and then we'll start working on the light bar. So these are actually exactly as anticipated. The reason I went with this brand is because it received some better reviews. The packaging was better. It came with, some little extra sticky pads, had a more elaborate remote. The transmitter has some 3M, no doubt, Chinese knockoff 3M sticky tape on the back. Really good connection between the actual light strip and the transmitter. And then the light strip itself has a pretty good gel coating around it. So I knew that these were of decent quality as it pertains to Chinese LED strips. But let's turn this thing on and see what we got. So as you would expect, all the colors work, and there's a ton of options because there's white. Now I probably will use something like this. This is like an icy blue. There's also a regular, more like obviously like a royal blue color, and then you can go up and down the blue, you get more violet. So a lot of flexibility with the colors. Now, one thing I noticed here is that these arrow buttons that are up and down, the color spectrums don't seem to work at all on any category, which is a problem. Even though I'm probably not going to use this functionality, it completely rules out this DIY section, which enables you to sort of manipulate the colors how you want. And so I'll be contacting this. I've had several products with these cheap, Chinese remotes. These are hit or miss. One of my other lights has a remote like this, and the dim button doesn't work anymore. So I'll probably just contact the seller. They'll send me a new remote, and that's kind of what you expect when you order these. But for now, it's not really much of an issue because I'm probably going to use this light, and then all I need is the functionality to dim it up and down. So that'll enable me to start and do the light bar, and then I can give you all an idea of what the end result is going to be. So let's get into that. I got the PVC the other day, and we'll start building that. All right, so here's the plan with the light bar. Pretty straightforward, 1/2-inch piece of PVC, and I want this to run between the overflows, but I don't want it to extend beyond the overflows because I want it to sort of cascade down and have these corners be a little darker. So I'm basically gonna measure this out so it sits somewhere behind here but doesn't extend past it. And then I have two 1/2-inch elbows, slip on one side, threaded on the other, and two 1/2-inch PVC plugs that are actually gonna act as the mounting for this this light bar. So what I'll probably do first is drill the holes in the top of the shadow box where I know I want the ends of the light bar to be, and that way I can measure out the piece of PVC exactly where I want it, where the plugs are, and not have to guess. So that's that, and then basically I'm gonna take the adhesive backing off of the LED light strip. I'll use some electrical tape as well to secure it in place and just have a really good wrap around this light bar. And then underneath it, on the underside of the shadow box, I'm going to line it with this reflective tape for ductwork and stuff. I just happen to have it laying around. Probably will add, I don't think it's really necessary for this type of project, but I figure I had it laying around, why not? Let's give it a whirl. So let me get that rolling. I'm going to drill some holes here, and as I go along, I'll update you. So I got the lights hooked up, and it's looking good. They are not as bright as I anticipated, but it's actually grown on me. Because I realize I don't want this to take away or distract from what's in the tank. I want it to just be like an afterthought, just something that adds to it. So I opted not to do the light bar for now because it hung down a little bit too far, and I would have had to detach the brackets that mount to the tank and then raise the actual shadow box up higher. So I just pulled it off and glued it to the top, which works out fine because the lights don't hang down and it's not visible. And I may just keep it that way because it's really not that crucial. I made sure I added extra super glue to the strip so it's not going anywhere. But let me raise up the brightness. Now right now I have this on it's like their standard blue setting. So it's more of like a violetish royal blue color. It's going to be really hard to pick up colors here on the iPhone, but basically the color I was initially going to go for is this like cyan color. And that's what most people, they paint their tanks, or they try to achieve this gradient, so the very, very light blue down to a dark. And to me, that's why the darker blue ends up panning out, because you have way more customization with colors, as long as you have, something that has a bunch of different colors. So now I have the option, if I feel like, I want this more ocean cyan look, or a greener, or, a yellower light that's kind of like a warm white, all the way to, you know, a more of a violet or a royal blue or what have you. And then these lights have the DIY mode, so you can really dial in some different colors. Of course, they're not really going to replicate on the iPhone, but you can see how I've set up a couple so far that I've just been playing with. But yeah, it looks pretty good. And when I dim it down, it's a better idea of what this actually looks like. So like when I have this regular blue color on, if I dim it, that's more of what it looks like in person to me. So whatever the color light is down to that darker blue. And the other cool thing about, you know, obviously having lights that can dim is that, you know, if you really like dark backgrounds, you can still have that. I mean, right now this is sort of a midnight dark blue, and it looks brighter actually on camera than it is in person. One thing I will point out, because this is sort of still a work in progress, I played with this a little bit, but if you look right there, you can see that I played with some like sponge type, you know, feathered painting along the bottom to see what kind of result that would produce. And I'm kind of liking that, just because it adds way more to the 3D factor, because it's painted on the back wall and you can't really tell, you know, how far away it is. It just looks sort of hazy. So I may play with that a little bit. I have a darker blue I can, you know, do some specific sponge painting with on the backdrop. So I'm going to do that before I even fabricate any fake rock, just to see what that looks like. And so I will do an entirely separate part on artwork, because when I'm going to pull this back off and play with some sponge painting, and if worse comes to worse and I don't like it, I'll just paint back over it, because right now, I mean, it looks really, really good as is, other than the corners being obvious that they're corners. So I will have to fabricate something there to try to cover that up, so it just sort of looks like it extends from all angles. And over here on the side, I mean, even from the side, it looks very, very cool. But I probably will have to end up putting something over this where the glass is, and then obviously the gap between the shadow box and the tank, and that's an easy fix. That's later down the line. But other than that, it looks really, really cool from all angles, and I really like the option to have, you know, these different colors. So yeah, that's it for now. I'm going to try some other painting tactics on the back, so I probably will do a separate video on that, trial and error, see how well that works, if it works at all. And I want to get that done before I even make any decision on fabricating rocks, because it might look really, really cool by itself if it's painted correctly and if I get it right. So anyway, that's it for lighting. Lighting is done. Stay tuned, y'all. Take care.